I'd just like to start by acknowledging that we're on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and their unceded lands. And I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. And I'd also just like to say how excited I am to be here today, just listening to the previous presentations. I'm really excited at how much overlap there was between my research interests and all of yours. So yeah, it's really great, and I can only imagine how much else there is out there in the rest of the room. So I'm a research fellow and PhD candidate at the Melbourne School of Population and Global Health. And I'd just like to acknowledge my co-investigators in the project that I'll focus on today, so Lisa Gibbs, Catherine Bowen and Colin Gallagher. So one of the things that we were asked to reflect on in preparation for today was how, as graduate researchers, we can integrate sustainability into what we do. And so I want to tell you about this project that I'm doing at the moment, which is both sustainability-related research, so it's about sustainability, but it's also an opportunity for you to participate in a conversation about doing research sustainably at the University of Melbourne. So specifically, I'm talking about staff air travel at the university. So some of you will already be staff members, others might be in future. It's essentially, it's a live issue at the moment in the university. In 2019, this is according to the Sustainability Plan 2030, which was released earlier this year. So in 2019, there was 27,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions released from our business flights at the university. And that's the equivalent of powering 1.67 million households for a day, average Australian households, in gas and electricity. The sustainability plan sets a target of reducing that amount by 10% by 2025. Essentially it's a significant issue, and from my conversations within the university, it's one that has been difficult to gain traction on in previous years. There's not an appetite for consultation around it within the university. So this is something that you can get involved in, and I'll tell you about the process in a second. Actually, I think I've got the QR code later. I wanted to tell you here about what we're doing, which is actually starting tomorrow for a 2-week period. There will be an online conversation about this issue so that all staff and students within the uni, particularly graduate researchers, are invited to participate in. And essentially it will feed into decisions about next steps within the university. And I'll tell you more about the process in a second, but I just wanted to step back here and explain a bit about me and how I found myself doing this project, because a year or two ago, it's not something that I ever would have envisioned myself doing. So I have a background in public health, did my master's here a few years ago, and since then I've been working in disaster recovery research. And one of the big issues that I've seen in that research is, in partnering with practitioners and communities, is around decision making after disasters. So there's a consensus that the way to do that is for recovery to be community led, but actually figuring out how to do that in practice is definitely not straightforward. And the way that it normally happens is that there are community recovery committees established, so small groups of people that are put together to represent the community. But that's quite tricky for the people who are involved, because they're taking on a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of work and burden and expectation a lot of the time, even though it has, it works really well a lot of the time in lots of ways. But also, because they're a small group of people, it's not possible for them to represent the whole, diversity of views within a big community. So I became really interested in what innovations are out there that we could draw on as additional tools to help address some of those issues and essentially scale up the ability to have community-wide conversations about contentious issues. And so I was looking around for what innovations were out there, and particularly digital innovations using digital platforms. And this is one that I've ended up deciding to have a go at using in these kinds of contexts. So that's my plan later in my PhD. I'm planning to do a couple of case studies, and eventually one of them being in sort of disaster recovery or climate change adaptation contexts. But the first one is this conversation at Melbourne Uni. So the platform is called Polis. It was developed originally by people from the US. The Computational Democracy is the organisation's name. But the most significant application of it so far has been in Taiwan. So it's actually used as part of their mainstream system of government democratic processes, spearheaded by Audrey Tang, who's the digital minister there, who does heaps of really innovative work on democracy and particularly civic technologies. And it is really designed to enable large-scale community conversations, avoiding some of those, by using online technology to enable lots of people to be involved at once, so avoiding some of the pitfalls I was talking about earlier with kind of just committees and sort of analogue processes only, but also to avoid some of the pitfalls of other forms of social media, where you have issues like trolling and, in some ways things are engineered in a way that can exacerbate polarisation. So it's been really intentionally designed to try to avoid some of those things. The way it works, so this is a screenshot of how it will look if you get involved in the conversation starting from tomorrow, is essentially you are presented one by one with comments that other people have made on the issue, so in this case the issue of staff air travel emissions at Melbourne Uni, and you can either agree, disagree or pass, and then it will pop up with another statement and another statement. And if your perspective isn't already reflected in those statements that you see, you can put in your own, and then other people will be able to respond to that in turn. And then in real time, it visualises the opinion groups, or the opinion landscape. And you can click on each of those groups, and you can see what the kind of defining statements are for those groups, where they either agreed or disagreed with a particular statement in a different proportion to the other opinion groups. And then after the conversation, there's a much more sort of comprehensive analysis that will be available. So yes, it's a 2-week conversation. The sustainability strategy team, which is within the Chief Operating Officer portfolio, are engaged with this, and they're going to be leading the process of using the output of the conversation within the university. And then early next year, we'll be putting together some training, which will be available to Melbourne Uni staff and students who might be interested in using this platform. And I'm open to conversations about collaboration along those lines. While I am putting up QR codes, I actually wanted to just quickly slot in another project that I've been working on called Climate Superpowers. This website is live, just went live today, but it's still, there are some tweaks happening, so maybe check it on Monday if you're interested. But essentially it's a project that we've done working with young co-designers, so research participants across Victoria over the past few months, and the intention was to co-design with them a strengths-based resource around climate change. And the output has been this website, and how it works is that you can go onto the website and do a quiz, and it will give you results about what your climate superpowers are. So across these 7 different superpowers, and then it directs you to missions that you can take on using those superpowers. So yeah, if that's something that's interesting to you, feel free to check it out. And that's all from me. Thanks so much.